Admiral Kayla stood on the observation deck of the Ire of Ages, her gaze fixed on the pale blue dot drifting in the void. Through the reinforced transparasteel, she could see Earth's swirling oceans, storm-carved continents, and the glint of sunlit cities, an ethereal jewel suspended in darkness. For a species that prided itself on scientific mastery, the Aletheans had underestimated Earth's allure. Now, poised to strike, Kayla felt a hesitant tremor in her core processors. This was no routine conquest. Behind her, the bridge thrummed with controlled energy. Officers in slate-grey uniforms monitored gravimetric sensors and plasma conduit pressures. Holographic displays charted Earth's defensive grid, satellite clusters, laser turrets, and the nascent quantum field arrays. Official doctrine declared these mere curiosities, doomed to crumble under the onslaught of Alethean firepower. Yet Kayla's analysts had reported anomalies, subspace ripples that danced along the solar wind, patterns of interference that bore the hallmarks of advanced encryption. "Report," she commanded, her voice calm but edged with steel. Lieutenant Vess, head of quantum analysis, flicked through their databanks. "We're detecting low-frequency modulations in the solar wind, encoded pulses that originate not from any known planetary beacon, but from deep interplanetary space. They oscillate at intervals perfectly synchronized with our approach vector." Kayla frowned. Could these be natural phenomena? Solar flares? Coronal discharges? Vess shook her head. "No. We've cross-referenced against 11 stellar models. There's an intelligence behind them, calculations beyond our initial estimates for Earth's technological sophistication." A murmur ran through the bridge. Earth's reputation in the galactic community was of an undeveloped backwater, rich in life, but impoverished in warp-drive science. The Council on Interstellar Affairs had labeled any suggestion of Earth's true strength as alarmist paranoia. Yet now, here in the silent expanse just beyond Mars's orbit, the evidence was irrefutable. Kayla turned back to the viewport. She recalled the ancient legend, a haunting refrain passed down among explorers. Now they understand why no species survives an attack on Earth. A curious proverb, usually reserved for those who dared to approach the blue planet. Until today, she had considered it a cautionary tale, a cosmic urban myth. But legends often spring from kernels of truth. "Admiral," said Captain Rain, her tactical officer, "if Earth possesses an unknown quantum array, our standard protocols may fail. We should delay the strike and gather more intel." Kayla weighed the option. The Council's mandate was clear: neutralize Earth before its burgeoning communications networks siphoned forbidden data on Alethean homeworld tactics. Delay risked exposure, advance risked calamity. She tapped her comlink. "Open a secure channel to Home Council." Static hissed for a heartbeat. Then the stern visage of High Counselor Athelis appeared. His crystalline eyes reflected flickers of the starfield behind him. "Admiral Kayla, proceed with the operation immediately. We've allocated your fleet the precision of a surgical strike. We cannot permit any uncertainties." Kayla swallowed. "Counselor, our scans detect subspace anomalies. Our torpedoes and plasma lances may be nullified or diverted. We request permission to deploy a long-range scout to pinpoint these emissions." "Permission denied," Athelis intoned without hesitation. "Time is of the essence. The human alliance is unpredictable. Strike at 0814 UTC. Full force. Eradicate any resistance." The hologram blinked out. Kayla's reflection stared back at her, illuminated by the ghostly glow of Earth's horizon. The weight of command pressed on her circuits: disobey and face court-martial, comply and court the unknown. She straightened and offered a curt nod to Rain. "Prepare the first salvo. What we don't understand, we will destroy." Moments later, the Alethian fleet coalesced in formation around the inner planets. Hundreds of sleek warships, each a study in lethal geometry, waited for the Admiral's order. Sensor arrays hummed, plasma conduits ignited, and in the interlude before war, the void itself seemed to hold its breath. At 0814 UTC, Kayla activated the firing sequence. On the main viewer, the tracking paths of plasma torpedoes arced toward Earth like meteor showers of living fire. Each missile glowed with a searing blue core, enveloped by a shimmering antimatter sheath. The deck shuddered as energy rippled through the ship's spine. She felt the surge of power in her neural relay, an intoxicating clarity. "Launch," she whispered. The void erupted in a blossom of radiant arcs. Torpedoes streaked away, leaving trails of ionized particles in their wake. In that instant, Earth's defense network responded. From the shadow of geosynchronous orbit, a lattice of quantum reflectors sprang to life, unseen until now, casting prismatic shields that folded incoming energy back upon itself. The nearest torpedo vaporized mid-flight, not in an explosion, but by slipping out of existence, its energy dissipated into the cosmic background. The bridge erupted in alarms. Tactical officers scrambled to reprogram targeting matrices. Across the fleet, identical failures cascaded. Plasma lances coughed and sputtered as gravimetric pulses warped their focusing fields. Kayla felt her confidence crack. Lieutenant Vess cried out, "They're absorbing and redirecting our volleys. We're not penetrating the field. Our weapons are feeding their shield." Kayla slammed her fist against the command console. "Divert all power to experimental phase cannons. Overload everything." She knew the gamble. Phase cannons interfaced directly with the ship's faster-than-light drive coils, unpredictable and potentially catastrophic. If they misfired, they could tear the ire of ages apart. But standing idle was unthinkable. "Very well," Kayla ordered. "Risk it." Engineers across the vessel recalibrated reactor outputs. The entire starboard hull glowed an uneasy orange as the phase coils began to resonate. On the viewer, another wave of earthbound installations shimmered into view. Gravitonic dampeners anchored on lunar orbit, weaving a lattice of distortion fields that bent space itself. Earth's clandestine defenses revealed themselves in one grand, terrifying chorus. The phase cannons fired. A beam of cold, silvery light lanced through the void. For a heartbeat, it tore through the lunar dampeners, then snapped in two, its energy siphoned by the lattice and re-radiated as a feedback blast that sent the ire of ages lurching off station. The Admiral's stomach, her organic component, dropped. She barely held onto the handrail as auxiliary thrusters flared to compensate. Sirens blared. Sparks danced across consoles. The human world she had come to conquer was fighting back with technology centuries ahead of their forecasts. Kayla stared at the battered readouts. Her heart thundered. In that moment, she realized that this was no routine mission. Earth harbored secrets shaped by millennia of hidden alliances and ancient legacies. A planet transformed into a fortress of cosmic-scale defenses. The whisper she had heard among starfarers was true. Anyone who dared to assault Earth underestimated the hidden depths of its guardians and paid the ultimate price. As the ire of ages drifted in the void, wounded but not yet defeated, Kayla uttered a vow to herself and to the burgeoning alliance she commanded. "We will unlock the secret of Earth's power, or we will perish trying." And in those silent depths of space, the legend took on new life. Now they understand why no species survives an attack on Earth. At 0758 UTC, the world awoke to an uncanny dawn. Across every continent, civil defense sirens wailed as uneasy tremors rippled through the air. In New Delhi, families spilled into the streets. In São Paulo, traffic ground to a halt. In Berlin, church bells tolled their ancient warning. Satellites had detected the Alathian fleet assembling beyond Mars, but until now, the concept of invasion had seemed science fiction. Now it was all too real. Impact on Earth over the Pacific Ocean. A squadron of 5 plasma torpedoes, each the size of a commuter bus, broke through the ionosphere like blazing comets. From Hawaii to Chile, the first flashes bloomed, trailing. Violet coronas that set the sky aflame. Coastal cities scrambled their anti-missile batteries. Fighter jets roared aloft to intercept. Yet when anti-aircraft lasers struck the torpedoes' hulls, the beams folded back upon themselves, coalescing into a counterblast that knocked out entire radar arrays. In Brussels, the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Coalition, UEDC, General Aria Mendoza stared at the live feed hologram. She'd spent her career preparing for every conceivable threat: nuclear warhead launches, rogue nanotech outbreaks, even cybernetic uprisings. But planetary-scale plasma bombardment was a new terror. "Status report," she snapped. Colonel Shu tapped at her console. 6 incoming torpedoes over North America. All standard fusion-yield warheads, but shields are behaving strangely. Our tests on the liminal array suggested deflection patterns, but not on such a scale. The transparency field over Denver shimmered like oil on water, and one torpedo simply winked out of existence as it approached. Mendoza's jaw clenched. "Activate Aegis Grid Phase 1. Operation Aegis responds, hidden within the Swiss Alps, in a cavern carved by glacier melt and guarded by autonomous mechs, lay the core of Operation Aegis. A network of quantum reflectors, gravitonic dampeners, and dark matter resonators, once labeled a paranoid fantasy, stood ready. Engineers queued atop orbital platforms, fingers dancing over holotables as they calibrated fields in real time. Lieutenant Dara Iqbal, perched at the control station, inhaled deeply. On her screen, Earth's atmosphere was overlaid with hundreds of shimmering hexagons, each a segment of the planetary shield. She watched the first torpedo breach the grid. Then, with a soft chime, the segment folded the incoming energy, redirecting it back along the original vector. The projectile dissolved into subspace, leaving no debris, no explosion, nothing but a whisper of displaced particles. "Grid holding," Iqbal announced. Relief flickered across her face. "Redirecting excess energy to lunar dampeners. Stand. Wait for Phase 2. Across the globe, Allied command centers mirrored her action. In Seoul, an array of surface-to-orbit particle cannons switched to feedback mode, synchronizing with the Aegis network. In Johannesburg, tanker-sized power relays diverted a continent's worth of electricity through newly installed supercapacitors. Every nation contributed in whatever measure it could: electric grids, satellite uplinks, subaquatic hull-piercing lasers. For the first time in recorded history, humanity fought as one organism. The battle intensifies at 0814 UTC. The Alathian, flagship Ire of Ages, unleashed its second wave. Hundreds of torpedoes and plasma lances converging like a deadly flower of light. From the deserts of Nevada to the jungles of Peru, the sky was ripped open in strobing flashes. Yet each strike was met by a seamless counter. Plasma bolts were refracted by quantum lattices. Graviton beams were tangled by subspace pulses. Even conventional ballistic missiles, fired in desperation, were vaporized by residual shield energy, siphoned to orbital railguns. In New York City, General Mendoza watched as the East River's surface boiled under reflected energy. Districts went dark one after another as power plants sacrificed their cores to feed the Aegis grid. On the UEDC bridge, she exchanged a glance with her second-in-command. "We're bleeding our power reserves fast. How long can we maintain this?" Colonel Shu gave a curt nod. "We have reserves to last another hour, maybe 2. After that, we'll be vulnerable." Mendoza exhaled, steel in her eyes. "Then, we buy time. We buy enough time for Project Eden." She tapped the comlink to the Arctic Research Command, where a hidden contingent of scientists prepared the final element of Earth's defense. Civilian frontlines amid the grandeur of global strategy. Individual acts of courage played out. In Jakarta, volunteer squads organized sandbag emplacements to protect hospitals from electromagnetic fallout. In Rio de Janeiro, hackers, once working for criminal syndicates, banded together to reroute satellite feeds, shrouding troop movements from enemy sensors. In Nairobi, medics rigged mobile field units powered by portable fusion batteries to treat burns and trauma victims streaming from urban centers. Images of these efforts, shared on secure mesh networks, galvanized populations. Soldiers at remote outposts found themselves buoyed by messages. "Stay strong, we're with you. You're saving our world." Across time zones, strangers reached out to strangers, forging bonds that transcended language, culture, and creed. A moment's respite and reflection. By 10:37 UTC, the Aletheans paused. Their weapons were failing, their data streams choking on anomalous readings, their hulls scarred by feedback blasts. From the ire of ages, Admiral Kalar surveyed the battered missiles drifting listlessly through space. Confidence gave way to confusion, and then to fear. "They're weaponizing our own assault energy," she muttered, "redirecting it against us." Captain Rain looked to her. "We must recalibrate our warheads, adjust the yield frequency, but that takes time." Kalar closed her eyes, the distant Earth spinning like a living sapphire. For this moment, both sides held their breath. Humanity had revealed the first layer of its secret. A global connection powered by unity, creativity, and a hidden arsenal born from the bones of vanished precursors. Yet deeper mysteries lay below. Somewhere beneath the Antarctic ice, the liminal, Array's heart pulsed with dormant strength. The Aletheans still had one nightmarish advantage: they could strike at its source. But to do so would risk awakening defenses yet unknown. Defenses woven into the very fabric of Earth's legacy. As the temporary lull settled over battlefields on Earth and void beyond Moon's orbit, both commanders faced the same unsettling realization: the war had only just begun, and the next blow would decide who truly controlled the fate of the blue world. The moments of uneasy respite did not last. By 1422 UTC, Alethean long-range sensors had triangulated the source of Earth's quantum pulses, the Antarctic wastelands. Buried deep beneath the Ross ice shelf lay the liminal array, an artifact of a precursor civilization, its power forged from dark matter crystals and shaped by intelligences long vanished. For Admiral Kalar, this knowledge marked the turning point. Neutralize the array, and Earth's defenses would collapse. Descent into ice under the ghostly glow of the Aurora Australis, 10 drop pods streaked through the frigid sky, each one a coffin of carbon titanium and gravitic thrusters. They sprawled onto the frozen surface in perfect synchrony, explosive charges carving hatches through nearly a kilometer of stratified ice. When their doors whined open, Alethean shock troopers, clad in adaptive camo weave armor, descended into the tunnel. Their magnetic boots clung to icy walls as they activated subdermal nav beacons, directing them toward the cavern's heart. Meanwhile, above, Earth satellite platforms relayed the incursion to the Antarctic Defense Consortium. In Operation Aegis's command module, a repurposed orbital research station, Lieutenant Dara Iqbal watched the heat signatures plunge. "They're drilling straight down," she said. "No feints. They know exactly where to go." On the ice, Sergeant Marek Nyenga led a squad of human marines into position around the cavern's mouth. The wind screamed through the crevasse, whipping snow into swirling eddies. Nyenga knelt beside a portable grav scanner and frowned at the readings. 20 meters in, and they've breached the first pressure door. We have 90 seconds, tops, before They reached the main corridor. He keyed his comlink. Guardian teams Alpha and Beta, move in. Activate the exosuits. The Guardian legions, hundreds of meters below the surface, in a vaulted chamber carved from basalt, the liminal array's core pulsed with ethereal light. Dozens of human guardians, their bodies wired into the dark matter lattice through neural interfaces, floated in stasis pods. Their consciousnesses were tied to the array itself, each heartbeat synchronized with the crystal's resonant frequency. Around them, crystalline spires refracted beams of pure quantum energy, weaving the planet's protective fields. Alpha Team's leader, Captain Lena Ortiz, snapped open her helmet and inhaled the sterile, recycled air. "We knew this day would come," she murmured. Exosuit servos hummed as she stood, the plating shifting to a deep obsidian sheen. At her command, 20 fellow Guardians emerged from their pods, goggles glowing with augmented vision. K-level tattoos. Check. Neural. Link online. "We hold the heart," Ortiz said. "Remember, our lives are the array's cells. If we falter, Earth falls." Behind them, a secondary team prepped heavy charge rifles and gravitonic disruptors, Earth's analogues to the Alethean phase weapons. Their directives: delay the invaders long enough for the array to adapt its defenses, then retreat to secondary chambers if necessary. Clash in the deep alarms echoed through the cavern as Alethean troopers flooded in, their grav jets kicking up crystalline dust. They opened fire with antimatter blasters. The Guardians answered with pulse rifles that spat streams of subatomic particles. In the confined space, each blast rang out like thunder, walls fracturing, ice melts sizzling on the basalt floor. Lieutenant Vess's voice crackled in Ortiz's comlink. "Admiral Kalar is rerouting power from the flagship, deploying armored walkers to reinforce the breach." Ortiz gritted her teeth. "Then we've no time to lose." She raised her disruptor, the coils thrumming as they charged, and sprinted forward. Alethean armor buckled under the first discharge, synthetic muscles seizing as the field ripped through their energy matrices. Troopers fell back in disarray, but more surged forward, wielding vibro-scythes that cleaved through exosuit plating. Sergeant Jenga lobbed a thermal grenade into the enemy ranks. The blast wave rolled through the chamber, sending jagged shards of crystal and ice into the air. Alethean troopers coughed and staggered. Ortiz seized the moment and barked, "Retreat to Quadrant Delta! Keep them off the core!" The Guardians fell back, forming a defensive phalanx around the array's central spire. There, the largest dark matter crystal hovered, its facets spinning in zero-gravity suspension, veins of shimmering energy arcing between its edges. Ortiz activated her neural uplink. For a moment, she saw through the array's eyes, wild storms of raw quantum flux, the globe-wide diffusion of protective fields, hidden arrays flickering on Mars and Venus. Behind her, Earth's secret was laid bare in radiant patterns of light. The heart's sacrifice above, metallic stomps rattled the cavern ceiling as 2 Alethean walkers, towering machines bristling with energy cannons, rambled down the quake-riven corridors. Their pilots opened the walker's hull and fired directly at the crystal spire. Energy blasts tore through protective shielding, fracturing the crystal's lower facets. Ortiz felt a wrenching pull in her neurolink. The array shuddered, its fields flickering. "They're destabilizing it," she yelled. "If they crack that crystal, the array collapses and Earth dies with it." Jenga threw himself at the nearest walker's leg joint, detonating a magnetic mine that severed its hydraulic lines. The machine collapsed in a burst of steam and sparks, but the second walker was already lining up on the core. Ortiz raised her pulse rifle and fired point blank, the beam arcing through the walker's sensors. The enemy pilot, focused on the spire, barely noticed until the cockpit sealed off. At that moment, the liminal array reacted. Crystalline veins glowed white-hot as the central crystal absorbed the walker's final blast. A resonant chord echoed through the chamber, a sound like the birth of a star. Energy rippled outward in concentric waves, frying weapon circuits and burning through exosuit servos alike. Ortiz and her team felt the shockwave tear through them. Her vision blurred. Jenga's arm went limp in hers. As the aftershock faded, she struggled to her knees and saw the second walker's remnants smoking at the edge of the chamber, and the fractured crystal glowing unevenly, but still intact. "We held," she whispered, voice trembling. "The heart still beats. A fractured victory above ground. Seismic sensors recorded the deep impact tremor. Operation Aegis commanders realized the array had withstood its most dire test. Far beyond the Antarctic cavern, quantum reflectors pulsed with renewed vigor. Gravitonic dampeners reformed around geostationary orbit. Planetary defenses hummed with reinforced power. In the void, Admiral Kalar watched her feed of the battle's end. The defeat at the array's core was a blow more painful than any loss in space. "Prepare Plan B," she ordered, voice hollow. "Mobilize the rest of the fleet. We will return to this heart, and we will break it." But even as she spoke, the resonance of that dark matter crystal rippled through the solar wind, carrying its warning to every corner of the system. Strike at Earth's hidden heart and face the full wrath of a planet united. The vacuum of space held its breath as both combatants paused, shrouded in the eerie glow of shattered vessels and flickering shields. Earth's battered defenses hummed with the final stages of Project Eden, a desperate gambit conceived in the crucible of war, designed to turn the liminal array's power back upon the invaders. The last transmission, on the bridge of the Ire of Ages, Admiral Kailar's console crackled with static. Her sensors were overwhelmed by quantum feedback, an unseen force she could neither calculate nor resist. Panels overloaded, lights flickered, and the vessel's skeleton groaned under stresses it had never been engineered to withstand. System integrity at 20%. 10, 5. Kayla's voice was a rasp. Around her, crew members collapsed as life support lines snapped. Desperation etched across her features. She keyed the universal comm frequency one last time. "This is Admiral Kalar of the Ire of Ages. We underestimated the heart of Earth." Her words faltered, consumed by an expanding wave of white-hot energy that she could only dimly perceive. Impossible. Then silence. Project Eden unleashed kilometers below. In a subterranean lab carved into the heart of Greenland's ice cap, Dr. Mei Ling Chen activated the final sequence. Banks of superconducting coils shuddered as the liminal array's remaining. Crystals funneled petawatt-scale energy through a network of hyperspatial conduits. On her viewscreen, the planet's geodesic shield flared with blinding intensity. Above the Arctic sky, the aurora borealis erupted into cascades of impossible color, ribbons of quantum entropy descending like celestial lightning. Each strike disintegrated Alethian ordnance in an instant. Torpedoes dissolved without a trace, towed warships collapsed into shimmering dust, and gravity wells unraveled, flinging debris into harmless trajectories. From the vantage of low orbit platforms, Earth's defenders watched as the backlash wave expanded outward, a rippling sea of entropy that engulfed every hostile craft still foolish enough to remain. Even the flagship's mighty graviton drives could not outrun it. Their massive hull buckled, warped, and unraveled into the nothingness from which they had come. The aftermath at dawn on June 12, 2025. UTC, the stars above Earth were uncommonly clear. Scattered wreckage, reduced to quantum ash, drifted through the void. In mission control centers across the globe, commanders stared at empty feeds. The Alethians had vanished. General Aria Mendoza, standing before the ruins of Brussels Orbital Liaison Station, allowed herself a single breath of relief. Then she looked upward at the sky, no longer under siege, but transformed forever by the knowledge of what lay beneath and beyond. In Antarctica, Captain Lena Ortiz and her surviving Guardians emerged from the cavern. The liminal array's central crystal, though fractured, still glowed with steady cadence. Ortiz placed a gloved hand upon its cool surface and felt the planet's pulse, a slow, resolute heartbeat born of millennia. "We prevailed," she said, softly, "but the price was steep. A new legend word of Earth's victory spread faster than any missile ever could. Across star routes and hidden comm relays, the tale became a warning etched in cosmic memory. Now they understand why no species survives an attack on Earth." Scholars debated the nature of the liminal array, its origins, its makers, its dormant potential. Diplomats from distant systems trickled in, offering treaties and embassies, cautious not to provoke the world that had harnessed the power of creation itself. On the battered deck of the Ire of Ages, drifting near lunar orbit, a single transmission crackled through empty corridors. In Alethian home space, the High Council gathered, their crystalline chambers silent but for the echo of that final message. Plans were drawn to rebuild, to research, to avenge. Yet every strategist knew the cost of another assault on Earth would be annihilation beyond any war ever fought. Back on Earth, humanity faced a new dawn. The battle had united them in a way politics never could. Ancient feuds were forgiven, borders redrawn, and a global council formed to shepherd a fragile peace. And at the heart of it all stood the liminal array, a reminder that unity and understanding, once forged, were the planet's greatest bulwark. As the sun rose over an unbroken horizon, voices across continents spoke the same refrain, a chorus of resolve and humility. "We will never again let the world be unprepared." For now they understand, and so do we. No species survives an attack on Earth.